Good morning, third grade. I hope all of you are doing well. Today is Thursday, October 8th, and we are going to continue with our passage on tadpoles. And what we're going to do today is set up what's called a story arc. So all narrative writing, which is what we're working on, follows a general pattern for how it is written. It follows this kind of shape. It's scarier than it looks. So it starts off kind of flat. It starts to rise up, comes to a peak, and then it falls back down, and then it flatlines again. So this is the general format of what a story arc looks like, and we're going to be talking about what each part is and then putting our story into it. So, I have lost my marker. Oh, it's okay, I got that one. It's just gonna be blue. We're gonna write in green. So, the first part of a story arc is you need to set the scene. So that's what this first flat line is. You're setting the scene. And what you do when you set the scene, that's kind of going to be your background information. That's going to be introducing your characters. That's going to be putting in the setting, kind of what's going on in the beginning of the story. So we know, so that the reader knows what is involved in the story. They need to know what's happening, who's who, all that kind of stuff. And then when it starts rising, it's because you've introduced your problem. The problem is kind of what gets your story going on the uppity up. So you set your scene, and then you have your problem. So once you introduce your problem, everything starts going up. It starts rising. And this is called, the three is over here because this is what this is. I just don't have room for it over here. So this is what is called your rising action. It is where things start to happen, and those are kind of the events of your story until you get to what is called climax, which is where everything in the story kind of comes to. It all comes to this peak, this head where the story has all the main event that happens in the story. So that could be different things for different stories. It could be like a fight or a battle. It could be something is revealed. It could be a wedding. There's a lot of things that it could be. We'll talk about what ours is in the story in a minute. But it's kind of where all of the story has been leading up to until that point. And then, so after you have where everything exciting happens and you know what your story's been reaching towards, you have your action kind of starts going down again, or it's falling. So this is your falling action. And with your falling action, since it's going down, that's kind of where everything is kind of coming to an end. It's there's not really a whole lot happening anymore. Nothing really new is being introduced. You are coming to your conclusion. You are coming to the ending of your story. You're coming to how all of your solution, where how that problem is solved and how that story ends. So if we come to our story about tadpoles, we read, every spring Max and his brother Will go to the pond at the end of their street to look for tadpoles. They love to catch them so they can watch them turn into frogs. So you're kind of setting the scene here. You know, you are introduced to our characters, Max and Will. So Max and Will go to the pond for tadpoles. That's kind of what our story is going to be about. That's who it's going to be about. We know what's going on. We know where it's taking place. We know what to expect. We know what to look for. Are that Will and Max love tadpoles, and they always go to the pond to look for them. So then we continue reading. This spring, when Max and Will go to the pond to catch tadpoles, they see a painted turtle sitting on a log enjoying the sun. "Look at the cool turtle," says Will. "Should we try to catch it?" Max asked. Will responds, "I like catching tadpoles better." Max agrees with Will. They fill their bucket with tadpoles and head home. When they get there, they empty the bucket into a big, wide tub. So, our problem is introduced about how you can look back on your chart, on your graphic organizer, and see what our problem was. It's, how they want to catch tadpoles, and they bring them home in a bucket. So problem, they catch tadpoles. Really having a hard time with my D today. Tadpoles in a bucket, because we don't know how they're going to keep them. So they catch the tadpoles, they put them in a bucket. The rising action is how so kind of how our story is going is they put them in a tub. So when they get home, they put them in this tub, and then they cover the tub with a screen so animals can't get to the tadpoles. They keep the tub in the shade so the water does not get too hot. So the climax of that story is they cover the tub and keep the tadpoles safe. So that's kind of what the whole story is getting towards. It's getting towards how they're going to keep these tadpoles alive, since the tadpoles no longer are living in the pond. So Max and Will go to the pond every day to bring back fresh water and leaves from the bottom of the pond for the tadpoles to eat. After 6 weeks, the tadpoles grow into frogs. Then Max and Will take them back to the pond so they can live happily ever after. So our falling action is kind of the tadpoles grow up. They become frogs. So the tadpoles are growing up, and then our conclusion is they bring them back to the pond. And they let them go free. So that is kind of the story arc with our tadpoles. It starts off with setting the scene of where it takes place, which in this case is the pond. The problem is that they have to find a way to keep the tadpoles safe. Their rising action is putting them into a tub at home. The climax is what they do with the tub by keeping it safe. The falling action is kind of they're watching the tadpoles, grow into frogs, and then finally the conclusion is they release the now frogs, back into the pond and in the wild. So that is the general story arc of our story, and those are the general arcs that stories follow when they are being told. Is they set the scene, there's a problem, you have your rising action, you have your climax, your falling action, and your conclusion. Alright, so I look forward to seeing you guys on Zoom, and hopefully back in person soon as well. So have a good day, guys, and I will see you later. Bye.